Maybe you never said it out loud. Not because it wasn't real, but because you didn't know how to explain it without unraveling everything else. Maybe the pain didn't come as a single moment. Maybe it settled slowly, quietly, almost politely. It didn't interrupt your life. It blended into it. You learned how to carry it without letting it spill. You kept functioning. You kept responding. You kept meeting expectations. And from the outside, nothing seemed wrong. But inside, something was always aching. Listen. Not all pain demands to be heard. Some pain learns how to stay hidden, how to exist without language, how to live beneath responsibility. And maybe you became fluent in silence. You learned how to smile while your chest felt heavy. You learned how to nod while your thoughts were exhausted. You learned how to say, "I'm okay." So often that even you started believing it. And you never said you were hurting. But God knew. Listen. There are wounds that don't bleed and don't heal on their own. They don't show up on the outside. They don't slow your schedule. They don't excuse you from life. They just stay there, pressing, draining, waiting. You didn't wake up one day and choose to be strong. You became strong because someone had to be, because things had to keep moving, because stopping felt unsafe. And strength became your survival language, even while pain became your private reality. Listen. You didn't say you were hurting because you didn't want to explain what you barely understood yourself. You didn't want to open something you weren't sure you could close again. You didn't want to become the problem or the burden. So you stayed quiet. But silence never confused God. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, not only when heartbreak is obvious, but when it hides behind maturity, behind reliability, behind endurance." God knew you were hurting, even when no one else noticed. Listen. There were moments you felt the weight shift. Moments when things that once felt manageable started to feel heavy. Moments when your patience wore thin and your joy felt distant. Moments when rest didn't help. Because the exhaustion wasn't physical, but it didn't say anything. You adjusted. You adapted. You told yourself this was normal, and survival slowly became your standard. Listen. God never mistook your silence for strength. He never assumed you were okay just because you kept going. He never confused endurance with wholeness. Psalms 56:8 says, "You have collected all my tears in your bottle, not only the tears you cried, but the tears you swallowed, the ones he didn't feel safe releasing, the ones that stayed trapped inside your chest while you kept functioning." God knew you were hurting. Listen. Some pain comes from disappointment that never got processed, from prayers that took longer than expected, from trusting deeply and feeling quietly let down. Some pain comes from being the one everyone depends on, the listener, the fixer, the strong one. And you didn't say you were hurting because everyone else already needed you. But God saw the imbalance. He saw how much you gave without being replenished. He saw how much you carried without being supported. Listen. He didn't lack faith. He didn't fail spiritually. You were tired. And God understands the difference. Isaiah 41:10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. I will strengthen you and help you." Not after you collapse. Not after you finally find the words, but right in the middle of your quiet endurance. Listen. God works in places that words never reach. He heals beneath awareness. Not always with sudden relief, not always with dramatic breakthroughs, but with steady presence, with small internal shifts that change how you breathe, how you react, how tightly you hold yourself together. You may not feel suddenly better, but you're calmer, less reactive, less on edge. Those are signs that God is already restoring you. Listen. Healing does not always begin with speaking. Sometimes it begins with being seen. And you have always been seen by God. Psalm 147:3 says, "He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds." Binding is careful. Healing is patient. And God never rushes what needs gentleness. Listen. You are not weak for not knowing how to say it. You are not behind for healing quietly. You are not failing because your pain didn't come with words. God knew. He knew the moment. Your heart felt heavier. He knew the moment. You told yourself, "I'll deal with this later." He knew the moment. You reached your limit without ever announcing it. Listen. What you didn't say was not ignored. What you carried silently was not dismissed. What you endured quietly was not wasted. God is not asking you to keep surviving in silence. He is inviting you into a season where strength is gentler, where faith feels lighter, where rest reaches deeper than sleep. Listen. You may still be healing. You may still be learning how to be honest with yourself, but you're not alone. God knew you were hurting before you ever found the words, and He is healing you with patience and care. Not because you finally spoke, but because he always knew. You didn't say you were hurting, but God knew you were, and he is still walking with you through every step of healing. If this message spoke to your heart, like, share, and subscribe so it can reach someone who is quietly carrying pain today. And if you feel led, comment, God knows my heart. May his peace find you today.